Jake and Vincent had a plan to go camping for the night. So they gathered their things and went to go pick up Alice and Brenda, their girlfriends, and they went back to Vincent's. Vincent's plan was to go to a patch of woods outside his house. Camp out there, have a couple of drinks, smoke a little bit of pot, and possibly have sex, lose his virginity. Well, they start hiking, and then they come upon this creek. Well, this is the spot, Vincent says, smiling, throwing down his bag. Alright, Alice, Brenda, could you help me set these tents up? They agreed. And they helped Vincent set the 2 tents up. One for Brenda and Vincent, the other for Alice and Jake. They make a fire pit and gather a little bit of water from the creek, just in case the fire that they build goes berserk. They pull out their food supplies, lay them out next to the tents, and then Vincent asks Jake to go gather firewood. Hey man, I was wondering, could you go get some firewood? But it's about to get dark and we need it, like, desperately. Sure man, I'll go ahead and go get some. Jake starts walking through the woods, gathering as much wood as he could, looking around, admiring the wilderness. Then, out of nowhere, Jake notices a man standing there, not saying a word, not even making one hint of emotion, just standing there, facing his direction. Jake decides to ignore this and continuing picking up wood. But when Jake turns around to go back to the camp, the man is gone. Nowhere in sight, no sounds to indicate that he was moving or had ran away. So Jake shrugs it off and walks back to the camp. Jake walks into the encampment and they start building the fire in a small hole that they had laid rocks around. Jake pulls out his lighter and lights the fire. They sit around the fire for the longest. Making jokes, laughing, having a couple of drinks, smoking a little bit of pot. Then Vincent looks at them all in the eye. You guys want to hear a scary story? A true story? Sure, I'm game, Jake says, smiling, trying to impress the girls. Sure, why not? The girls agree. Vincent starts off his story by saying, this is a story of Jeff the killer. He was turned psychotic at a very young age by bullies. Long story short, an incident that he had occurred with the bullies, he had his face burnt pure bleach white. When he got home from the hospital, he started to burn his eyelids out and cut a smile into his face. He murdered his parents in cold blood and slaughtered his brother in his sleep. At this point, Jake and the girls were trembling with fear, but not showing it. Then Vincent says, "He's been terrorizing this town for the longest time. Haven't you noticed all the murders that took place? Haven't you noticed that they've stopped? They say he's come to this patch of woods to escape the police, so he would not be captured. He's been sitting here in the woods, killing any trespassers, hikers, campers, you name it." They all decide to shrug it off, laugh it off. And they all decide to go to bed. After the fire dies down, then, in the middle of the night, Jake wakes up to the sound of leaves cracking. He stands up, terrified, grabs the flashlight, jumps out of the tent, shines his light everywhere, searching. Is anybody there? Hello? No one comes. He doesn't see a soul. So, after a few minutes of looking, he decides to get back in bed, get back in the tent, and go to sleep. A few hours pass, and then Alice wakes up, Jake's girlfriend. But she's not being dragged. She didn't wake up in the tent. She woke up in the middle of the woods. She struggled to get out of her sleeping bag, but she was tied down with a rope. She was tied, trapped inside the sleeping bag. She tried to scream. No one could hear her screams for help. And the only person or thing she could see was a man, a tall man in a white hoodie, dragging her through the woods. After what seemed like ages, they finally came up to a cabin. The man walks over to the cabin, to the side of the cabin, and grabs an axe, swings it up in the air, revealing his face. A hideous smile smirks across his face. His eyes had no eyelids, black rings around them. Looked like a man in his late 20s. She's so terrified, she can't even speak. She can't even scream. Hell, she couldn't even cry. The man swings his axe high in the air, looks down at her, and says, "Go to sleep," and then smashes the axe across her neck, decapitating her. The next morning, Jake, Vincent, and Brenda wake up. Jake stumbles out of the tent. "Hey guys, have you seen Alice? I can't find her. She's been gone all night." "No, man, we haven't seen her. Help me find her, please." "Alright, man, we'll go this way. You go that way. If you find her, Jake, scream for us. Likewise." Jake starts running through the woods. Vincent and Brenda head in the opposite. Jake, trembling, screaming Alice's name, he could not find her. After what seemed like an eternity of nothing but screaming, his voice went hoarse. His throat gave out on him. He couldn't even sputter a word. Then he saw a man standing there. white hoodie, black dress pants, but it appeared that the clothes on his body were scorched or singed. His face was white, but had a tint of black to it, as if he'd been burned. His hair was dark coal. He looks at Jake and pulls out a butcher knife and laughs. Jake stumbles back, running as fast as he could. Then he trips on a limb that's in the ground. The man runs up behind Jake, jumps on his torso, puts the knife to his throat, and simply says, "Go to sleep." And then slams the blade down into Jake's neck. He gags for air as Jeff stares into his eyes. As the light leaves his eyes, Jeff laughs, staring him eye to eye. Jake and Brenda were in the woods. They could not see Alice anywhere. After hours of running around trying to look, they were exhausted. Their feet had blistered. They were just exhausted. Felt like they were about to pass out from exhaustion. So Vincent decides to ask Brenda if she'd like to go back to the camp. Maybe they've met up there. Brenda agrees, and they go back to the camp. When they get there, they come face to face with nothing. Nothing. Just the camp as they left it. Then they go over to their tent and they unzip it to get inside to rest. Then, sitting in the middle of the tent, staring at the tent's entrance, was Jake and Alice's severed heads with smiles cut from cheek to cheek. Brenda vomits from the sight. Jake staring Vincent blankly in the eyes with no emotion to his eyes. Just that god-awful smile. Vincent screams in pain, knowing that his two best friends just were slaughtered by someone or something. Before they could turn around, a loud thud. Everything went black. Jake wakes up, vision blurred, looking around, trying to find what the fuck went on. He tried to stand up, but he was bound to a chair. His hands likewise. A voice from a distance. Finally you're awake. Vincent's vision comes to, and he sees dead bodies hanging from meat hooks on the walls. Some had flesh missing from their skin, from their bodies. Some had body parts missing as well. Fingers, toes, foot, hands. But they all had the same features. They all had smiles cut into their faces. Vincent vomited on himself. A man walked around with a white hoodie, singed, blackened white face, and singed coal hair. Crouches down next to Vincent. It can't be that bad. Don't you think my work looks amazing? Look at how happy they all are. Vincent says, "Let me go, you sick fuck." Is that any way to talk to someone? You really need to learn manners. And then the man stabs a knife into Vincent's kneecap, right above his kneecap in the muscle. Vincent screams as he twists it, then yanks it out. Now, think long and hard who I am. I don't know who you are. Oh, come on. Don't you remember the story you told your friends? White face, black hair, white hoodie. Jeff, yeah. Jeff finishes Vincent's sentence, muttered sentence. I have a present for you. He grabs Vincent's chair and swings him around, showing Brenda tied to a chair. Vincent screams, Brenda! And cries in agony. He walks over to Brenda. And places the knife against her cheek. And laughs. Oh, I have something much better. He walks over to a broom closet and grabs a machete, wielding it in the other hand. I have something very special to show you. He walks over to Brenda. Vincent closes his eyes and strains them to keep them as tight as he can as he hears blood and splatters coming from the other side of the room. He awakens. He opens his eyes wide to the feeling of something in his lap. He looks and he sees Brenda's head, her severed head, in his lap with a smile cut into it. Vincent jumps around and screams as the head rolls over to Jeff out of his lap. Jeff puts his foot on top of the skull, on top of the head, and crushes it beneath his feet. I love the sound of bone and flesh cracking. Your turn, my friend. Your turn. He goes over to Vincent. He goes over to Vincent and puts the knife to his face. Vincent struggles his hands. Oh, don't worry. You'll be joining us soon enough. And starts toying with Vincent, playing with him, putting the blade against his skin, scraping it. Vincent struggles his hands and he gets one hand free. He punches Jeff in the face and grabs the knife from him and slams it into Jeff's chest. Jeff, you little shit. He yanks the knife out of his chest. Vincent runs for the door, slams it open. Jeff throws a knife, hitting Vincent in the back of the leg. Vincent keeps stumbling. He doesn't fall. He yanks the knife out and throws it down. Vincent starts running for the tree line, back to the encampment. Oh, you like to play hide and seek, do you? That's my favorite game. I'll count. You hide. Vincent hides behind a tree. Jeff counting loudly so it echoes. 1, 2, 3, almost to 5, little piggy. 4, 5. And as soon as he says 5, he slashes at Vincent coming from around the tree. Vincent runs for the tree line. Vincent makes it. He's running forward to his house. Almost there. Then he hears something roaring through the air. A machete plunges through Vincent's chest. Vincent hits his knees. Jeff comes from behind, takes the machete from Vincent's back, and rolls him over onto his back. Sitting there, bleeding, he stares at Jeff, crying, tears in his eyes. Vincent knows he's gonna die. He puts the machete to Vincent's neck.
Oh, you think you could kill me? Jane couldn't kill me, as you can see by my clothes. Slendy couldn't kill me by impaling me in the chest. How do you think you'll kill me, huh?
He puts the machete to Vincent's neck and says,
Go to.
And right before he could say sleep, 2 of Vincent's dogs jump Jeff, tearing to the bone with their sharp teeth. Jeff kicks them off and runs back to the woods.
I'll have you. No one gets away from me. You will go to sleep eventually.
Vincent crawls back to his home, opens his front door to see his parents. His parents call 911 and he's rushed to the hospital. Luckily, Jeff missed internal organs, and he hit muscle tissue. Vincent laying in bed, resting, crying his eyes out, knowing that his 3 best friends are dead, and the one he loved was dead, cried himself to sleep. The nurses said he would be all right, just a flesh wound. Then Vincent wakes up in the middle of the night to hear a thud in his room. He looks around, he finds nothing. Although, at a closer inspection, he sees Jeff standing in a corner of the room.
You thought you could get away. I told you I'd find you.
He straddles onto the hospital bed, standing over Vincent.
No, I'm not going to use the knife. I'm going to make you bleed. Bleed to death.
He grabs the IV and yanks it from Vincent's wrist. Vincent slowly starts to bleed out. As Vincent dies, he stares Vincent in the eyes and says,
Go to sleep.
Gets off of Vincent, walks out the door, looking back at Vincent's eyes, smiling, and then Vincent slowly bleeds and then dies.